Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the 2024 season of our DFS Captain Showdown slate video series, Oh Captain, My Captain. I'm your host, Joshua Hudson. Joining me a little bit later is going to be Austin Amandolia, our DFS expert here at Club Fantasy FFL, in the first showdown game of the week, the Thursday night opener of the 2024 NFL season, the Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. So stay tuned. And we're back. Love it. New brand, new video, new music, same info, new attitude. Absolutely love it. I'm Josh Hudson. With me for Oh Captain, My Captain, our DFS expert here at Club Fantasy FFL, Mr. Austin Amandolia. Austin, how we doing tonight, buddy?
Doing good. I am stoked for this game. I got a new TV, so it's perfect. It's just in time for football season. Ready to watch two of the best quarterbacks go after it.
Love it. As mentioned in the intro, this is a preview of the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs, the first game of the 2024 NFL season on Thursday night. When this episode drops, you people have about 12 hours to get those showdown lineups set. But that's okay because we've got you covered. We're available on YouTube, on Apple and Spotify and iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. So be sure to hit the links in the description to take you wherever you listen to your podcasts. With that, friendly reminder that you too can play along with us here at Club Fantasy FFL. The links are going to be in the description. You can enter your showdown lineups. We have a league that's basically created to where you can play the Sunday slates with us. You can do showdown slates. Whatever Austin decides to open up available to us, that's what we're going to do, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely love it. And of course, before we get into all of the info, I have to give a friendly shout out to our affiliate, Trophy Smack. It is the season of champions. This is what we are building towards, people. Head over to trophysmack.com/WOF. That's WOFF. Get yourself your championship gear, whether that's a trophy, a belt, a ring, banner, wall art, which clearly, if you're watching on YouTube, you know that I clearly need because I look like I'm broadcasting out of a prison. So I will be heading over there and getting something here sometime this season. But all of the affiliate links will go towards helping us continue our efforts to build up women of fantasy football and promote women in the fantasy sports industry. Once again, that link is trophysmack.com/WOF. And until September 24th, if you purchase a trophy or a belt from Trophy Smack at checkout, use promo code WOFF, that's WOFF, and get yourself a free championship ring, people. Freebies are great. Show off that bling. trophysmack.com/WOFF. All right, Austin. It's time to get into it. We've got some fun little segments here on Oh Captain, My Captain. And as you can guess, they're all pirate themed because that's what captains are. They're, captains of the sea or whatever analogy we want to use because I'm clearly not all prepared for this. But our first segment here is going to be Captain Chalk. These are, as described, it's the chalky captain pick of every single showdown. And Austin, you're going with the obvious. Mr. Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it's definitely the obvious one. And part of the reason I went with Patrick Mahomes is because he's actually pretty cheap on DraftKings as far as the captain spot goes at only 15,600, which, based on our typical DFS lineups, that sounds really expensive. But with the captain spot, that's pretty good for Mahomes. I think he's going to end up being the most played captain. So if you're in a smaller contest, he's a pretty safe bet. You will need to get different elsewhere if you're playing in those tournaments to try and hit that upside. If you're playing cash, I don't play a ton of cash on those showdown slates, but if you are, I think Mahomes is a great bet for that captain spot. He has a very great track record of week 1 matchups. He averages over 3 touchdowns per game in the first game of his year. We all know Andy Reid is great when they've had plenty of time to prepare. So I would expect him to come out throwing hot and heavy. You will not go wrong if Patrick Mahomes is your captain spot, unless you do.
I'm glad you mentioned averages over, week 1 starting a season, all that good stuff, because Patrick Mahomes wasn't all that hot last year. Of course, we know the situations. Travis Kelce was a late scratch due to an injury, didn't have his full complement of weapons. You could argue he also doesn't have his full complement of weapons this year, having already ruled out Marquise Hollywood Brown. But you've got the young hotshot rookie, Xavier Worthy. Ray Rice didn't get suspended. He's out there, had a great rookie season last year. And, of course, we all know the big dog, Travis Kelce. Defense should be mainly healthy as well. Chris Jones not dealing with a holdout this year. Patrick Mahomes could very easily sling it. So let's talk alternate captains for those that maybe think that 15-6 is a little bit pricey for their captain spots. This next section is called the Mutineer. So these are the contrarian captain choices that give you a little bit of upside and maybe some of these larger scale tournaments. You're sticking with the Kansas City Chiefs here, which makes me think where you are going if you're actually betting on the over-unders here, Austin.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily exactly the case, but what I do know, and you will find this all throughout the season, I do tend to prefer the favored team to have one of their players in the captain spot, because history tells us that most often the team that is favored to win has the optimal captain. So I am going first off with Rashee Rice, who is 11,400 on DraftKings. He's pretty cheap. He's one of the cheaper Kansas City Chiefs players for the captain spot. I think that what I'm betting on here with having him as a contrarian captain is that the off-season narrative around him continues into week 1, and that people are still not really interested in playing him. I feel like Rice's ADP has been pretty depressed on a lot of boards throughout the offseason and the draft season because of some of his off-field behavior, and also just people getting excited about guys like Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown. There's more competition, And so I think Rashee Rice could go a little bit overlooked. I also think he's not as exciting to play as a captain as is an Xavier Worthy. So I could see his rostership percentage being a little bit lower because of that, which bodes well for some good upside for tournaments. If I'm in a particularly large field tournament, I'm going with Isiah Pacheco, who is 12,600 on DraftKings. The reason for this is just I think that a lot of people are looking towards this game hitting the over, imagining a shootout. People are excited about football. They're ready to see some back and forth. That's what they want to pull for. But both of these defenses were really good last year. And there's a chance that these defenses remain really good this year and play really well in this game, and that this game hits the under. If it does, I think Isiah Pacheco could have a pretty good game and could end up being the optimal captain, because if he hits 100 rushing yards and a touchdown, that could be all it takes if this game ends up being a 14-10 slog or a 17-14 game. So I really like him in those larger field settings.
I'm glad you mentioned that based on Pacheco, because one of my favorite contrarian picks is Derrick Henry for that exact reason. These are two really good defenses. I fully expect this to be a lot of we're going to run the football. We're going to establish the run. We're going to look to play good defense. I'm very curious to see how the Chiefs pass defense looks this year without Snead back there, whom the Chiefs traded to the Titans in the offseason. But, again, Chris Jones being there, they've got a good run defense. And let's face it, you don't go out and get Derrick Henry if you don't want to run the football, right? So you've got to account for Lamar Jackson. Now you got to account for Derrick Henry. They're going to run the football. Derrick Henry sits at 13.5, so not that much more expensive than Isiah Pacheco. So again, I think if you're wanting to flip and maybe get a little more contrarian and go away from the betting favorite, so to speak, Henry is definitely a really good option there as well.
Yeah.
All right, our next category, the first mate, because in these showdowns, you start 6. 1 captain, you need 5 flexes. These first mates, these are people that are going to help you fill out those those flex spots around your captain. And Austin, you've got some big names here. Got some sexy picks. I like them. Let's start with Lamar Jackson.
I'm being very risky with my picks this week, right? Picking Lamar Jackson as Travis
Kelce. Contrarian to chalky, right?
Yeah, but I do think Lamar Jackson is going to be an important part of your lineups this week. Just in the flex spot, he is actually one of the most expensive player on the board at 11,400. I still think it's an important play because what I'm betting on in this matchup is that Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City come out pushing the ball down the field and that this turns into a shootout really quickly, which means that Lamar Jackson is going to have to do the same. I think, his passing yardage line is in like the 220s. It's 220 and a half on BetMGM right now, which is kind of wild. It feels a little bit low. But Lamar Jackson, he's got that dual threat ability. He's going to run the ball around. So he's a great, just safe floor. And he also obviously has that ceiling. And of course, if Kansas City is popping off, he's going to have to throw it a ton. So that correlation will be there. I also have Travis Kelce. And I think that while this is sort of chalky, it also might be a little contrarian, like less chalky than I think typically, because people are a little down on Travis Kelce. There's been a lot of conversations about him being on a snap count during the year and that he just is going to fade off this year. He's no longer the consensus tight end 1 in drafts and redraft and best ball. And I think that that's a mistake a little bit. And it might be a good time to just bet on him and say, Andy Reid has had 2 weeks to prep for this game. Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes did pretty great, the 3 of them, with not a lot around them last year. I think they could do pretty good again. And they have defenses now have to worry about Xavier Worthy. So I'm still betting on Travis Kelce in this matchup. I think he's going to be a staple in most lineups.
That would make a ton of sense. I mean, you see the name Travis Kelce and you're like, oh yeah, he's good. I got to play him. Come on. Simple math, right? All right. Next category here is going to be your deck scrubbers. These are your cheaper punt plays that really you just kind of need one play, and maybe the opportunity cost lines up with that. So while you focus mainly on the more expensive Chiefs, you're flipping the script here and going for cheaper plays with the Ravens. So let's start with Isiah Likely.
Yeah, some of this is just a little bit of game theory. So I don't love betting on the cheap Kansas City Chief players right now because there's so many of them that could get it, that if I'm playing in a single injury lineup, I'm going to be betting on one of them at a time. And it's hard to decide which one, like between Justin Watson, Sky Moore probably won't do anything, but who knows? He could. Samaje Perine could get in there. It's really hard to say. Whereas on the Baltimore Ravens side, to me, it's pretty clear. Isiah Likely is going to have a role in this offense. He's at 2,600 on DraftKings. He's super cheap. It's easy to fit in the lineup, especially if you're using a guy like Rashee Rice as your captain spot, which is my go-to for this week. So I love having Isiah Likely stacked with Lamar Jackson. I think there's going to be a lot of 12 personnel happening on the Baltimore side, and I can easily see Isiah Likely ending up in the end zone, getting 3 catches. And if that's all he does, that's plenty. 3 catches, 20 yards and a touchdown. That'll pay off at his salary, and it could be the difference maker in your lineup. I will say if it's a larger field, I might stray away from Isiah Likely because he might be a little bit too chalky there. And in those cases, I'm looking at Nelson Agholor, who is at 3,400 on DraftKings. Nelson Agholor, he just has this weird connection with Lamar Jackson. Now, he's not going to be on the field a ton because when there are 2 wide receiver sets, it's going to be Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. But when they get into 11 personnel, Nelson Agholor is going to be on the field, and Lamar Jackson looks for him. He'll get like 1 catch for 34 yards, but if that catch goes for a touchdown, he's going to be most likely in the optimal lineup. So I really like having him as a person in my player pool, especially for those pretty large tournaments.
Yeah, I like both of these punt plays. The way that they've talked up Isaiah Likely, it seems like they're going to be playing a lot of 12 personnel because they want to get both Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely on the team. And you can make an argument that Likely is a top 3 pass catcher on this team. And that's not really shade, in my opinion, on Rashad Bateman, because the clear options really are Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. We just really haven't seen it yet with Bateman. And he's still working on trying to put it together. Now, he did get extended this offseason, so, one hopes that they want to try to work him in more. But I think they're going to throw a lot of different looks because what we really saw last year from Todd Monken wasn't a traditional Todd Monken offense. So I'm wondering if maybe he starts to try to implement more of those, 12 personnel looks, the 11 personnel looks, which, again, the 11 personnel obviously is going to benefit Nelson Agholor, and he's somebody that scores touchdowns for them. Couldn't freaking do it in Philly, but he comparably do it in Baltimore. So there's that. One more reminder before we get into our final category here. You can play with us. So hit the link in the description. It's going to take you over to our DraftKings contest, and you can set up showdown slates to go against Austin, myself, and other members of our community and our team as well. So let's again hit that link in the description. You'll find it below. All right, Austin. Final category. My favorite category, just mostly because I love the name. The Kraken. This is the lineup trap that sinks the ship. These clearly sometimes are big names. Sometimes they're just kind of like the sexy off-season hype train picks that people really want to believe in. But let's be real, they just fall into the coach speak. And Austin, your first pick here literally cannot be any cheaper on DraftKings, let me tell you. And that's Carson Steele, the running back for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Carson Steele. He's going to be interesting in people's mind because he is a whopping $200 on DraftKings. Like, he's free. You can just fit him in your lineup basically no matter what you do elsewhere. You pick 5 expensive players, you can still get Carson Steele. I'm avoiding it. I think there's a great chance that he goose eggs in this game for fantasy purposes. He's gonna be rostered probably at least 1%, maybe 2%, because people are gonna be like, "Oh, preseason hype," or "in on Carson Steele. I just drafted him with the last pick of my fantasy draft. Got to get him in my showdown lineup." I don't see it happening. They just signed Samaje Perine off the streets, who is really good in the backfield, out of the backfield, both from a pass blocking perspective and from pass catching perspective. And they want Isiah Pacheco to be on the field. They love the energy he brings. So I don't see Carson Steele really having an impact in this game. I'm avoiding him. I'm also avoiding Devontez Walker, who is $2,400 on DraftKings. That is, to me, too expensive.
Crazy. Yeah, way too expensive.
I mean, it's just $1,000 cheaper than Nelson Agholor, and he's never going to see the field. Like, I don't think he's going to be seeing the field in this first game. Maybe later in the season when they have some injuries or he's developed a little bit. But
and at that point, he's going to be $200.
Exactly. So I don't think he's going to be on the field enough, and I want to see his performance before we go anywhere. I could see him being rostered a little bit, but I think you should avoid him.
I'm with you. I wasn't really on the Devontez Walker hype train coming out of UNC. I believe that's where he came from. And I think he fell to the 4th round with the Ravens. So I think best case, what you're really hoping for is, he ends up taking that Nelson Agholor role by season's end, which, again, that's not really a role for fantasy or even DFS in all honesty. So yeah, 2,400 for Tez Walker is just woo. Yeah. Don't let that sink your lineup. Let me tell you. All right, Austin, that'll do it, buddy. First episode back. I'm feeling it, man. I like it.
First one down.
I like it a lot. All right. Friendly reminder, head over to trophysmack.com/WAF. Use our affiliate link and buy anything, literally anything. Help us continue to grow because we don't really get paid for this. So when you guys support our affiliate links, that's what helps us, spend more money on DraftKings or Underdog or anything else. Feed the habits, people. Feed the habits, not actually feed us, right? And once again, any purchase of a belt or trophy from now until September 24th, enter code WOFF, WOFF at checkout, and get yourself a free championship ring, a customizable ring or otherwise. And that's a great value because your customized rings are anywhere from like $75, I think, and up. So yeah, it's nice little deal there. Nice little deal. For Austin at Austin_FFL, for myself at the One Hudsonian. You can follow Club Fantasy across all the socials at Club Fantasy FFL, the URL, clubfantasyffl.com. We will see you guys next week for whichever Thursday night game that is. So salute to you, oh Captain, my Captain.